Welcome to Craving the Heat, where desire takes the lead and every story leaves you wanting more. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments and keep up with our latest naughty stories. I always thought that I was in control of my life, that I knew exactly where I was headed. I had a good job, a small but cozy apartment, a close circle of friends, and a future that seemed mapped out for me. But when I started working at a new company, I had no idea how dramatically my life would change. I had no idea how quickly everything would spiral out of control. It all began when I was hired as an assistant to the CEO of a growing tech firm, Right Tech. The company was one of the fastest growing in the city, and it felt like a dream job. I had always admired its vision, the way it was reshaping the landscape of the industry. My boss, Thomas Wright, was a well-known name in the business world, charismatic, driven, and seemingly untouchable. Everyone adored him. He was the type of man who could walk into a room and instantly command respect. Tall, impeccably dressed, with sharp features and an aura of confidence that practically radiated off of him, Thomas was the kind of man you couldn't ignore. And, of course, I couldn't help but notice him. When I first started working with Thomas, I admired his work ethic and his visionary approach to business. He was always professional, at least, on the surface. But there was something about the way he looked at me, the way his eyes lingered a little too long, that made me uncomfortable. And yet, at the same time, it drew me in. At first, I brushed it off as nothing. After all, I was just the assistant. But the glances turned into smiles, the smiles into subtle touches. Sometimes, when no one was looking, Thomas would brush his hand against mine as he handed me documents, and I felt a spark, a charge in the air that I couldn't deny. He was my boss, and I knew the rules. I knew that office relationships were a bad idea. But there was something magnetic about him, something I couldn't resist. One late evening, we were both in the office finishing up our work for the day. The place was quiet, and the usual bustle of employees had disappeared. It was just me and Thomas, sitting in the conference room, surrounded by papers and laptops. He'd been talking about a new project, and for a moment, I felt like it was just us in the world. Then, without warning, Thomas stopped speaking and looked at me with a kind of intensity that made my heart race. "I've been thinking about you a lot lately," he said, his voice low and steady. I froze. I wasn't sure how to respond. My mind screamed at me to pull away, to remind him that he was my boss, but my body wasn't listening. I felt the heat rising in my cheeks, and my breath seemed to catch in my throat. His gaze never wavered, and I felt like the walls between us had suddenly crumbled. One morning, I walked into the office to find my desk cleared, my files gone, my computer wiped clean. My heart sank. I knew exactly what was happening before anyone said a word. Thomas had ended us without saying goodbye. He sent me a text, something so simple it made my chest ache. "It's over. Please don't try to contact me." For both our sakes, I couldn't breathe. I didn't understand. Just like that, everything was gone. The secret we had shared, the passion, the moments of fleeting happiness, I'd been his secret, and now I was nothing. He was gone, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. As the days passed, I tried to move on. I found another job, something that would take me away from the memories of him, something that would allow me to start over. But no matter how far I ran, the shadow of what had happened between us followed me. I had been his secret, his hidden affair, and now I was just another broken piece of his past. The pain didn't go away, but it became easier to manage. I learned to live with the scars he had left behind, to accept that I would never get the closure I needed. He had been my boss, and I had been his secret. In the end, it was a secret that consumed me, and one I would never fully escape. But as time passed, I realized something. Sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones that make us feel alive. And sometimes the price of passion is far steeper than we ever imagined. The days after Thomas ended, it felt like I was in a fog, each step uncertain, each moment a painful reminder of the forbidden love I had lost. I had thought that after the affair ended, I would feel relief, but instead, all I felt was an overwhelming emptiness. The office, once a place of excitement and purpose, now felt suffocating, like a reminder of everything I had done wrong. I couldn't shake the memories of our secret moments, the stolen glances, the touch of his hand against mine, the passionate kisses hidden from prying eyes. Despite the pain, I tried to focus on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my work, keeping my head down and avoiding any contact with Thomas. It was hard, though, especially since we were still working for the same company. But Thomas had become a ghost in my life. Every time I passed his office, I would feel that familiar ache in my chest, a longing I couldn't shake. I had given him my heart, my trust, and now I was left with nothing but regret. The weeks that followed were a blur of emotions, grief. Anger, confusion. My friends noticed the change in me. They could see the shadows under my eyes, the way I no longer smiled the way I used to. I wanted to explain, to tell them about what had happened, but I couldn't bring myself to open up. The shame was too much. I had been the other woman, the secret, and that was a part of me I could never undo. One evening, after a particularly difficult day at work, I was at home mindlessly scrolling through my phone when I saw a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat. It was a message from Thomas. My stomach clenched. After all this time, after everything he had said, he was reaching out to me again. Part of me was for Thomas. I started, but the words didn't come. I didn't know what I was even trying to say. He stood up, walked around the table, and came to stand beside me. I could feel his presence, the way his tall frame loomed over me, commanding attention. His hand gently cupped my chin, lifting my face to meet his. "Jennifer," he whispered, and the sound of my name on his lips sent a shiver down my spine. "I want to kiss you." Before I could respond, his lips were on mine. I had never been kissed like that before, soft, yet demanding. My heart hammered in my chest, my mind spinning with confusion and desire. Part of me wanted to pull away, to stop this before it went any further. But another part of me, the part that had been drawn to him for so long, wanted to surrender completely. It wasn't just the kiss that overwhelmed me, it was the way he held me, the way he made me feel like I was the only person in the world who mattered. For a moment, I forgot that he was my boss, that this was wrong, that I was supposed to be focused on my career and my life. All that mattered was the intensity of his touch and the way he made me feel alive. We didn't stop there. The days that followed were a wind. Every stolen glance, every whispered word, every hidden touch made me crave him more. We would find moments between meetings, after hours, in the shadows of the office, where no one could see us. At first, it was just an escape from the mundane, a fleeting indulgence and something that felt forbidden. But soon it became something more. I found myself looking forward to those moments, craving his presence. I knew that this was wrong, that what we were doing could ruin both of our careers, but I couldn't help myself. The pull was too strong, and Thomas was too irresistible. He was everything I had ever wanted: powerful, confident, and completely consumed by me. He was my boss, but in those moments when we were together, I felt like I was the one in control. But the secrecy started to wear on me. The constant lies, the stolen moments, it was starting to take a toll. I couldn't tell anyone about what was happening between us. I had to pretend that everything was normal when, in reality, everything was falling apart. The guilt gnawed at me, but the desire kept me trapped in a cycle I couldn't break. One night, after an intense meeting, Thomas took me out for dinner. We sat in a secluded booth at a fancy restaurant, the dim lighting casting shadows over his face. I could see the tension in his eyes, the conflict between the man he was at work and the man I had come to know in private. He reached across the table, his fingers brushing mine, and I felt that familiar spark ignite between us. "I need to tell you something," Thomas said, his voice low and serious. "We can't keep doing this. People are starting to talk. It's only a matter of time before someone figures it out." I felt my heart sink. The reality of our situation hit me like a ton of bricks. I had been living in a dream world, thinking that I could somehow make this work, but the truth was undeniable. We were playing a dangerous game, and It was only a matter of time before everything came crashing down. "You're right," I whispered, my voice barely audible. "But I don't know if I can stop." For a moment, Thomas didn't say anything. He just looked at me, his eyes searching mine, and I saw something that terrified me regret. He had always been the one in control, the one who led, but in that moment, I saw him falter. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I never meant to drag you into this, but I don't know how to walk away now." I didn't know how to respond. I didn't know how to walk away either, but I knew that we couldn't keep living this lie, not without consequences. The next few days were filled with tension. I could feel the weight of what we had done bearing down on me, and I knew that it was only a matter of time before someone noticed the change in our behavior. The office was buzzing with gossip, whispers about our late meetings, and the way Thomas seemed to look at me when no one else was around. Then it happened. One morning, I walked into the office to find my desk cleared, my files gone, my computer wiped clean. My heart sank. I knew exactly what was happening before anyone said a word. Thomas had ended us without saying. "Goodbye, Dot." He sent me a text, something so simple it made my chest ache. "It's over. Please don't try to contact me." For both our sakes, I couldn't breathe. I didn't understand. Just like that, everything was gone. The secret we had shared, the passion, the moments of fleeting happiness, I had been a secret, and now I was nothing. He was gone, and I was left to pick up the pieces of my shattered heart. Dot, as the days passed, I tried to move on. I found another job, something that would take me away from the memories of him, something that would allow me to start over. But no matter how far I ran, the shadow of what had happened between us followed me. I'd been a secret, his hidden affair, and now I was just another broken piece of his past. The pain didn't go away, but it became easier to manage. I learned to live with the scars he had left behind, to accept that I would never get the closure I needed. He had been my boss, and I had been his secret. In the end, it was a secret that consumed me, and one I would never fully escape. But as time passed, I realized something. Sometimes the most dangerous things are the ones that make us feel alive. And sometimes the price of passion is far steeper than we ever imagined. The days after Thomas ended, it felt like I was in a fog, each step uncertain, each moment a painful reminder of the forbidden love I had lost. I had thought that after the affair ended, I would feel relief, but instead, all I felt was an overwhelming emptiness. The office, once a place of excitement and purpose, now felt suffocating, like a reminder of everything I had done wrong. I couldn't shake the memories of our secret moments, the stolen glances, the touch of his hand against mine, the passionate kisses hidden from prying eyes. Despite the pain, I tried to focus on rebuilding my life. I threw myself into my work, keeping my head down and avoiding any contact with Thomas. It was hard though, especially since we were still working for the same company. But Thomas had become a ghost in my life. Every time I passed his office, I would feel that familiar ache in my chest, a longing I couldn't shake. I had given him my heart, my trust, and now I was left with nothing but regret. The weeks that followed were a blur of emotions, grief, anger, confusion. My friends noticed the change in me. They could see the shadows under my eyes, the way I no longer smiled the way I used to. I wanted to explain, to tell them about what had happened, but I couldn't bring myself to open up. The shame was too much. I had been the other woman, the secret, and that was a part of me I could never undo. One evening, after a particularly difficult day at work, I was at home mindlessly scrolling through my phone when I saw a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat. It was a message from Thomas. My stomach clenched. After all this time, after everything he had said, he was reaching out to me again. Part of me was furious, while another part of me wanted to believe that maybe, just maybe, he still wanted me. "I need to see you. Please, just one last time. I can't stop thinking about you." I stared at the message for what felt like hours, my fingers hovering over the screen. I knew it was a bad idea. I knew that seeing him again would only reopen old wounds, but my heart ached in a way I couldn't explain. I had tried to move on, to live without him, but the truth was, I still wanted him. I still missed him. Without thinking, I typed back, "Now." His reply was immediate. "Because I can't live with the regret of losing you. I was a fool. Please, just give me a chance to explain." I didn't even pause before I agreed. I told him I'd meet him at a cafe near his office, and within the hour, I was standing outside, feeling both nervous and excited. As I walked in, I saw him sitting at a corner table, looking as handsome as ever, but there was something different about him, something distant, as if the man I had known was gone, replaced by a stranger. "Jennifer," he said softly when he saw me, his voice thick with emotion. He stood up, his eyes meeting mine, but there was a hesitation in his gaze that I hadn't noticed before. "Thomas," I said, sitting down across from him. I didn't know what to say, what I was even doing there. But I couldn't leave. Not yet. For a few moments, we just stared at each other. The silence was heavy, suffocating. The words we had been holding back for so long were hanging between us, and neither of us seemed able to speak them. Finally, Thomas broke the silence. "I messed up, Jennifer. I've been a wreck since I ended things with you. I thought it was the right thing to do, but I was wrong. I'm sorry. I don't expect you to forgive me, but I need you to know that I never stopped thinking about you. I never stopped loving you." The words hit me like a punch. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to believe that everything we had shared wasn't a lie. But a part of me, the part that had been hurt so badly, wanted to scream at him, to tell him. He didn't deserve me. He had been my boss, my secret, and now, after all the damage, he was telling me he still loved me. It didn't make sense. "I'm not the same person I was when we were together," I said, my voice shaky but firm. "I've changed, Thomas. You've changed, and I don't know if I can trust you again." "I don't expect you to," he replied, his voice cracking slightly. "But I'm asking for a chance to prove that I can be the man you need. I made a mistake, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to make things right." I could see the sincerity in his eyes, the regret. But that didn't change the fact that he had hurt me. He had hurt us both. And no amount of apologies could take away the betrayal, secrecy, the way he had made me feel like nothing more than a hidden affair. "Thomas, I don't know what to do with all of this," I whispered. "I don't know if I can just forget everything. I don't even know if I want to try again, but I need to figure out who I am without you." He nodded, looking defeated, and for a moment I thought I saw tears in his eyes. "I understand. I don't expect you to make any decisions now, but just know that I'm here and I'll be waiting." I left that cafe feeling more confused than ever. I didn't know if I had made the right choice. Part of me still longed for him, but another part of me knew that I couldn't keep living in the past. I needed to heal. I needed to move on, but Thomas's words haunted me for weeks. He loved me. He still wanted me. Could I forgive him? Could I ever trust him again? I threw myself back into my work, back into the distractions that had once kept me sane, but nothing felt the same. The pain of his betrayal still lingered, and no matter how hard I tried to move forward, it felt like I was stuck in the past. Then one night, I received a call from my best friend, Jessica. She was someone I had confided in about my affair with Thomas, though I hadn't shared every detail. I didn't know how to explain everything, especially the complexity of it all. "I know you're still hurting," she said, her voice soft but firm. "But Jennifer, you need to ask yourself one question. Do you want to spend the rest of your life wondering what could have been with him? Or do you want to let go of the past and find a future that's all yours?" Her words hit me hard. For the first time in months, I realized that I'd been holding on to something that wasn't mine to keep. I had been living in the shadow of Thomas's betrayal, letting it define who I was, and I needed to let go. I didn't call Thomas after that. I didn't need him anymore. I needed to reclaim my life, my heart, my future. And I couldn't do that while he was still holding on to me, still pulling me into a past that was never meant to be. The man I had fallen for had been a fantasy, a dream that wasn't real, and I was done living in it. As the weeks went on, I thought I was starting to heal. I immersed myself in my work, focused on rebuilding my life, and tried to move past the emotional devastation that had consumed me. But despite all my efforts, I couldn't completely let go of Thomas. The way he had looked at me in the cafe, the depth of his regret, it kept me questioning everything. Had he truly changed? Could I really forget what had happened, or was the damage too deep to repair? One evening, I received a message from an unknown number. My heart skipped a beat as I opened it, expecting it to be another plea from Thomas. But the message was different. "I think you should know the truth." I sat there staring at the screen, unsure of what to make of it. I didn't recognize the number, but something in my gut told me it was important. I hesitated, fingers hovering over my phone, unsure if I should proceed. But curiosity won out, and I tapped the message. "Thomas never loved you." The words hit me like a slap across the face. I stared at the screen, my heart racing. My mind couldn't process the message. How could anyone say that? After everything, after the pain, the guilt, the apology, how could the stranger say that Thomas never loved me? I quickly read the rest of the message. "You weren't the only one. Thomas has been seeing someone else. For months now." "I thought you should know." My blood ran cold. My hands trembled as I reread the message over and over again, trying to make sense of it. Who could have sent this? Was it a cruel joke? Or was it the truth? I couldn't just sit there. I needed answers. I needed to know if what I was reading was real or some sick fantasy someone had created. So I did the one thing I knew would give me clarity. I reached out to Thomas. That night, I sent him a message. "I need to talk to you now." Within minutes, my phone rang. His name flashed across the screen, and for a moment, I just stared at it, paralyzed. Then I answered, my voice shaky. "Jennifer," he said, his voice strained. "We need to talk. I know what this is about, and I've been trying to figure out how to explain it to you." "Explain what?" I asked, my tone rising. "Explain how I wasn't the only one? Explain how you lied to me?" There was a long pause, and I could hear his breathing on the other end, uneven and rushed. Finally, he spoke, but his words were not what I expected. "Jennifer, I never wanted to hurt you, but the truth is, you were never the only one. I had an affair before you. Claire wasn't the only one. I've been seeing her for months, but there was another woman too, someone I thought was just a fling at first. But she meant more to me than I ever wanted to admit." I couldn't breathe. The world around me started to spin as his words continued to cut through me, each sentence a new wound. "Who is she?" I whispered. There was a long silence. And then, as if the air had been sucked out of the room, "Thomas's?" Voice broke. I never wanted to tell you this, but it was you, Jennifer. I was seeing you both. I was sleeping with both of you, and I convinced myself I could handle it. But I couldn't, and now it's too late. The words shattered me. I was numb, unable to speak, as the realization slowly sank in. I had been his second choice, the one kept in the shadows, the one who was never truly loved, never truly prioritized. He had never been faithful to me. I wasn't the secret he had been keeping. I was just one of many. And what I felt like, a passionate affair, a connection that I thought was so deep, was nothing more than a game to him. "Why, Thomas?" I finally managed to choke out, my voice barely a whisper. "Why did you do this to me?" "I'm sorry," he repeated over and over, but his apology felt empty. It was wrong. I regret it every day, but I was selfish. I couldn't choose between you and Claire. I thought I could handle it, but I couldn't. In that moment, the last remnants of any feeling I had for him dissolved. The love, the hope, the pain, all of it turned to ash. I was nothing more than a fool who had been caught up in a fantasy, a lie he had fed me to keep me hanging on. "I'm done, Thomas," I said, my voice strong despite the heartbreak that threatened to overtake me. "Don't ever contact me again. we're finished. I ended the call without waiting for him to respond. As I stared at my phone, I felt a strange calm wash over me. I had been betrayed in the worst way possible, not just by him, but by my own inability to see the truth. The days that followed were like a cleansing. It wasn't easy to move on, but slowly I started to understand that my self-worth wasn't tied to Thomas or to the illusion of our relationship. I had been blinded by my own desires, my own yearning for something real, something that never existed. I never heard from him again. Thomas disappeared from my life as quickly as he had entered it. And though I occasionally wondered what he was doing, if he was with Claire or someone else, I never let myself dwell on it. I had my own life to rebuild. I had my own future to create. As for the affair, it wasn't just a betrayal of trust. It was the realization that the man I thought I knew, the man I had believed loved me, was nothing more than a master of deceit. And the truth, as painful as it was, had set me free. The message from the unknown number turned out to be a wake-up call I didn't want to hear but desperately needed. Thomas was never mine to begin with. He had been playing the game all along, and in the end, it wasn't just Claire he'd been seeing in secret. He had been seeing me and her all along. I was never his one and only. And now I was free to be my own.